clear? Okay, fine, fine. Okay, students, so let's start. Uh, so from today, we'll start with the bottom-up parsing here. So let us quickly recapture whatever we have discussed with respect to the top-down parsing. So in the last, we came across one powerful category of the top-down parser, which was predictive parser, and it is very well known by the name of LL1 parser, where we have done few pre-processing steps. What are those pre-processing steps that give me any form of the grammar? So I'll apply certain pre-processing on that grammar in terms of the computation of the follow set and the first set computation. So this is the pre-processing part which we did. After this, we constructed one table, I mean the parse table, in which it is feasible for the compiler to take some deterministic actions as soon as the stack configuration is something or my lookahead pointer is pointing to something. So I can take the deterministic actions. So if the actions are non-deterministic, that means the form of the grammar is incorrect. It is completely ambiguous. So now we'll start with the bottom-up parsing, and in the bottom-up parsing as well, we'll I mean, like just we started top-down top-down parsing while uh, discussing its several issues. Similarly, here also we'll first understand what exactly this guy is, bottom-up parsing, and what are the several issues that one has to face while looking at the bottom-up parser. Fine, so this is the roadmap for today's session here. So bottom-up parsing, what exactly is the bottom-up parsing? So bottom-up parsing says, I mean, as we have discussed already in the introductory session of the syntax analysis, that here the procedure is completely reverse. So we have to design the parse tree for an input string starting from the leaf nodes and going towards the root. So suppose, so here we have just started like this, somehow this, and here we are doing like this, and finally we are uh, moving towards the root. That is nothing but my start symbol of the grammar. So if your parser is doing, I mean, is capturing this thing, I mean, like this, I mean, bottom up from the leaf nodes going towards a root, and the root node is nothing but your start symbol of the grammar. So I'll say that that string is valid string. It is conforming to the corresponding structure here. So now we have to think like this. Or, I mean, there is another way to say that I am reducing my given string, which is at the leaf nodes, to the start symbol of the grammar. So these are two vocabularies which we are going to frequently use with respect to the bottom-up parsing. So I am reducing this long string or the equivalent string to the start symbol of the grammar. Fine, guys. So now let us try to understand a few important things with the help of straightforward first example here. So let's say this is my given grammar here, and I have to simply parse or reduce this string, the given input string. As I said, now either I can say parse or reduce the input string to the start symbol of the grammar here. Fine. So how we are going to do this? So let us see. And I mean, by looking at this, we'll subsequently understand what exactly are the issues that one needs to face while looking at this bottom-up parser here. So suppose, this is the given string, to us. I need to just reduce to the start symbol of the grammar. So I'll bring certain intermediate sentential forms of the grammar, and subsequently or gradually I'll move to the move towards the start symbol of the grammar here. So what I'll see, when I'm reducing, so that means I have to look at the right-hand side of the production here. Fine. So if my right-hand side of the production is matching with my any substring of the input, so I'll simply perform a replacement with the leftmost non-terminal of the grammar here. So like I can see, so currently I'll say, let's suppose my look at pointer is his. So I'll say I'll do nothing. I'll simply shift my look at pointer to the next guy here, that is B here. Fine. So now I can see, now as a human, we are doing this reduction right now, consider. So I see that there is one production that A is deriving B. So that means this guy, this right-hand side is completely matching with one substring in my input stream. So I should reduce it. And what do you mean by reduce? So I'll simply replace this right-hand side with the leftmost non-terminal of the grammar here. So what I'll do, I'll simply perform a reduction. Replacement with the leftmost non-terminal, that is B, C, D, E, as it is here. Fine, guys. And there is one more possibility now subsequently, if I shift my look at pointer, that again, I'll replace this B again also with the A here. Finally, and the rest is completely same here. Similarly, I go for C. So C, I'm not finding anywhere on the right-hand side here. So I'll completely write one more time as it is here. And now I'll say that D is present on the right-hand side. So this will give me this particular sentential form here. Sorry, I did something wrong. Let me rub this. So let me rewrite. So this is something like this. So this is my next sentential form of the grammar here. Now afterwards, what I can do, I have E here, and as you can see, it is unavailable on the right-hand side of the grammar, or any substring, continuous substring of the grammar. I can't do anything. So that means when I was doing the reduction from here to here by introducing these intermediate representations, I did not reduce somehow to the start symbol of the grammar. Fine. So should I say at this point of time that this string is an invalid string? It can't be generated by this grammar? No, because it is quite possible that I have some different actions which probably I would have taken, and that would have taken me to the start symbol of the grammar. So let's do one more time. So I'm repeating the same thing again here. So what I'll do here, I'll simply, write A as it is at this time, again with perform a reduction for this A driving B by A here. Fine. And now, instead of, if you recall, instead of performing the reduction by this symbol, why not I should completely go for this reduction that is exactly present on the right hand side of a production. So I'll say, now instead of reducing this, I'll completely reduce this to A, which will eventually give me this particular thing here. So this is now another sentential form of the grammar. Fine, guys. Similarly, I can do further that this is again already present on the right hand side. So I can go with this form also. Fine. And finally, as you can see, this is completely present on the right hand side, and this can give me another sentential form, which is nothing but the start symbol of the grammar. So now I can say that this string is the valid string of the grammar. It is confirming to the, confirming the corresponding underlying structure here. So consider, the parser doesn't know, when to reduce or when to move forward or when to shift. So here, if you recall, we probably have taken the wrong decision here. By replacing this terminal with the non-terminal, which is the left-hand side of the production here. And here we did not do that, and we simply reduce, instead of reducing B, we reduce completely this right hand side here. And that somehow is giving me the start symbol of the grammar. So right now in front of you, you have two scenarios where one is taking you to the start symbol and the another is taking to somewhere else, which probably we will say this is not the right way to do that. So the parser should have enough intelligence to make these unique actions. Like just now recall, in the top-down parser said that which productions should be used and which symbols should be used for further expansion. That was the implementation issue. Similarly here, for the bottom-up parser says, oh, come on, whether I should reduce this guy or completely this guy. Because I have two different productions, and which one I should use for the reduction here. That is that we need to answer here in the bottom-up parser. Being a human, we can use the brute force strategies, but parser says, oh, come on, give me the unique actions. Hope this issue is understood, guys, to all of you. That when we have multiple productions for reduction, so which one I should use? Fine, students, any issue up to this point? So let's take this thing one more time, and we'll try to understand this thing in a different way now. With respect to the bottom-up parser here. So this was the grammar, and this is the reduction we just did here. The valid reduction. So this underlines which we have performed the reduction. So initially we perform the replacement with A, and then fit complete A, and again this D and B, and finally to the S here. Now, if you see, if I produce a rightmost derivation for this particular thing here, S is deriving A, B, E, and similarly we are coming across the same string here. The rightmost derivation for this. So you are saying every time we are expanding the rightmost non-terminal. So that is why we are calling this guy as rightmost derivation. So if you just try to recall, just look at the opposite thing, that is reduction, that it is nothing but the reverse of the rightmost derivation. First is this, which is completely the last, then another is this, another is this, and so on, and finally this here. So bottom-up parser is doing what? It is generally, capturing the rightmost derivation in the reverse. Fine. And this is where your bottom-up parser have to capture this information. So bottom-up parser usually work that I'll capture the rightmost derivation, however, in reverse order. Fine. So that is why we generally say that bottom-up parser can also be looked as an attempt to reduce the input string to the start symbol of the grammar by tracing out the rightmost derivations of W in reverse. This is my W, and I have just traversed these derivations in reverse here. So what exactly it means in other way, that whatever the sentential forms I'm getting here, this sentential form, this sentential form, this and this all sentential forms should come in the proper order of the reduction as well. So just recall, in the previous example, we have seen some different sentential forms, right? So I'll call those sentential forms as invalid sentential forms. Why? Because that is not a part of my rightmost derivation sentential forms here. Fine. So this is the thing here. And now we have to automate this thing because this we know as a human, but how the parser needs to do. So for that, we have different bottom-up parser, which will actually automate this process here. So they will make sure that whatever the sentential forms I'm getting in the reduction process, that sentential forms should completely match with the sentential forms of the rightmost derivation, however, in reverse order. Fine, guys, everything up to this point. Any question, anything you want to ask? Fine. So let's move then. So bottom up parsing one more time. So here we need to understand, guys. I mean, one more thing, which we have. I mean, we need to automate this process. So we need to understand few logistics here. So here you can see. I mean, let's suppose this was the configuration at our second place. I mean, I have just rewritten this thing. So I should know that currently, I mean, I'm somewhere here. Here, and I should know whether I should perform this reduction or not, right? Either I should move ahead or simply perform the reduction here. Fine. So my question here is that whether I should perform the reduction of B with A or I should move ahead and I should consume more thing and then I will perform the reduction with this. So that means in our parser, we need certain symbols which will say, okay, come on, I have read up to this point. Now I have to read some extra so that I can take some reduction actions here, reduction decisions also. So here, what thing we are saying here that the bottom up parsing is conventionally known as shift reduce parsing. That either, if you recall, either I should shift to the next symbol or I should simply perform the reduction. So shifting is moving to the right, fine, and reduction, you know that if any substring is of the input is matching with the right hand side of the production, so I should simply replace with the leftmost non-terminal of the grammar here. So that is why it is called as shift reduce parsing, shift reduce parsers. So hence we are going to utilize the stack of these parsers which are going to perform the reductions. And as I said, we need certain symbols which will say, oh, come on, we have parsed this much input and the rest is supposed to be parsed. Or we need certain symbols which can actually capture that how much to reduce and what to reduce. Fine. So shift reduce parsing here. Let's call in this manner now, shift reduce. So it says that whatever the string you are supposed to parse, you should split that string into two parts. Fine. So it says two parts are being separated by a special character in your state of art as well. That is this special dot symbol. So the left part is going to be a string of terminals and the non-terminals, and the right part is going to be your string of only terminals. Fine. So right, if I again go back and take the same example, just try to capture here. Suppose again I have this up to this point here. Fine. And my dot is somewhere here. Now what does it mean? It means this right hand side of the input is yet to be parsed, first of all. And this is actually already parsed here. And as I said, that the left hand, I mean, the symbols on the left hand side could be your alpha and beta. I mean, any string of terminals and the non-terminals. And the right hand side part could be always the string of terminals, because this is the rest of the input which I am supposed to parse here. Fine, guys. This is the thing here. And what should be the initial configuration at my initial state? I mean, where is my dot here? So my dot will be initially on the extreme left-hand side. And this is the rest of the input which I'm supposed to parse. Let me call that string with the W here. So W can be anything. I mean, it could be a string of terminals. So initially my dot location is somewhere here because this is the rest of the input, complete input, which I'm supposed to pass here. And this is the significance of the dot here. How much, I mean, what is the rest of the input which I am supposed to pass and what has been exactly on the, which has been already passed. Now, one more important thing. Always remember that the symbols on the left of the dot will be always kept on the stack. And as I said, the symbols on the right hand of side of this dot will be your rest of the input which is supposed to be passed. And you can see right now I'm simply amalgamating or simply concatenating the stack contents with the input content. And this is exactly one of my sentential form of the grammar. This is one of my derivation process, derivation step here. Stack configuration plus the remaining input configuration. Fine, so let's go back again. So here we said that the left part is going to be a string of terminals and non-terminals. I mean the actual symbols which are supposed to be on the stack. And this is my input stream here. I mean the rest of the input stream here. Now my question to you again, then where is my look ahead pointer? What should be my look ahead pointer considering this is my dot symbol? Come on, guys. Where is my current look ahead pointer corresponding, considering this is my dot right now?
So on B, one place
On
B.
B, yes. So my look ahead pointer is pointing to the B here because as I said, this is the rest of the input which I'm supposed to pass it. And initially my look ahead pointer is somewhere here. So dot exactly facilitate us what exactly is the rest of the input to be passed and what exactly is my stack configuration. I hope you understood the significance of the dot here, why we are introducing it. Okay, guys, so let's move forward. So initially, as I said, the input is going to be this dot W. I mean, which exactly I am supposed to parse using some category of the bottom-up parser here. Fine, students. So actions of the shift reduce parsing here. I mean, I said shift and reduce. The name is itself indicating the meaning that when I am supposed to parse the input, I'm only supposed to take two decisions, either to shift to the right or simply perform a reduction. Now, what exactly these guys are? Shift says that it moves the terminal symbol from the right part of the string to the left part of the string here. Fine. So what does it mean? If the string before the shift operation is something like this, suppose if your derivation is something looking like this, if your one of the sentential form of the grammar is looking like this, alpha dot PQR, and where alpha, as I said, could be any string of terminals and non-terminals, and these are the rest of the tokens which I'm supposed to pass. Then the string after performing the shift operation would be something like this. So my configuration has completely changed. What I did, I simply bring this guy here and alpha p dot qr. That means I have pushed the terminal which is on the right hand side of the dot symbol to the stack. Because as I said, this is my stack configuration. Fine. So again, if I take the same example, just now we covered, my initially dot was here, right? Let's assume like this. So I know that I do not need to perform the reduction here because that will not take me to the start symbol of the grammar. So what I'll do, I'll simply perform a shift operation. That means bring this guy here and dot is moving one kept add. And this is my now current look at point. This is what we call the shift operation. If I am not supposed to reduce. So simple, guys. So this is my modified stack configuration where top of the stack is including P, and this is my input configuration where my look at pointer is pointing to the Q. Then what exactly is reduce? So reduce we have already discussed. So it says it is going to occur immediately on the left of the dot. Immediately. I mean, the consecutive symbols which are on the top of the stack and below just it. and identifies a string or a substring same as right hand side of the production and replaces it by left hand side. Fine. Let me give you some more example with the same thing. Suppose our configuration is something like this right now. I mean, just because of the same problem, if you recall the first problem. Now I need to decide my lookat pointer is pointing to this, whether I should perform a shift operation or reduction operation. So reduction says that this part of the string, this part of the, the contents of this stack is completely matching with some right-hand side of the production of the grammar. So I'll call this as a substring because not this, I'm not including this. And I'm just performing the replacement with the left-hand side and my configuration is like this. So I did not shift any symbol to the left of the dot. I just perform a reduction operation. That means my now top of the stack is containing the symbol non-terminal A here. So this is the thing here. So if the string before the reduce section is this, I mean, let's say my sentential form of the grammar is this, fine, alpha beta dot pqr, and there is a production, let's assume, which says A is deriving beta. That means beta is a substring which is completely matching with the right hand side of the production, and I'll immediately replace with the left hand side, and my configuration would remain, like this. That is alpha A dot pq. So dot did not change its position here. So in shift, it is going to change. But however, in reduce, we are going to just change the contents of the stack here. Fine, guys, these two operations are clear to everyone. Any confusion, any comment, please let me know.
Sir, in case
Yes.
immediately after the dot there is a non-terminal, then we cannot shift.
No, we can shift. It is not necessary. So we'll say, let's suppose taking your case, this is somewhere dot, right? This is what you are saying?
Yes, sir.
So we say that right now, unfortunately, my none of the substring on the left of the dot is matching with any right-hand side of the production of the grammar. Hence, the only option left for me is to shift. So what I'll do, I'll simply go this and this. And probably by shifting, it is quite possible that this substring or any substring now will match with any right-hand side of the production. And now I can do the reduction. Hope I answered your question.
Yes,
Or is
sir.
it
Thank you.
fine? Fine.
Sir, but this configuration will never be there, right?
This configuration will never be there. I mean, what do you mean by this point?
Sir, because the on right hand side of the period there'll be only terminals.
So it is a terminal, right?
No, sir,
I mean,
on the left part of the example.
yeah, obviously this would not be the configuration because always the terminals has to be on the right hand side.
Okay, sir.
Okay, but since he has asked me, so that's why I said this. I mean, this can happen in some parsers which we are supposed to take in the upcoming sessions. This configuration can also sometimes happen just to take some deterministic action. So I'll say right now I'll just perform a shift operation.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Fine. So now let us now look again the issues one more time, because earlier what we saw informally, now let's do that issue, look at those issues in a formal way. So as I said, symbols on the left on the dot are always kept on the stack. Fine, guys. So just to recapturing, shift operation is always going to push a terminal on the stack. And that makes sense. I just proved to you this thing. So what are you shifting from here? That means you are pushing something on the stack, right? And reduce operation, remember, it first will pop the symbols, pop that substring from the stack configuration, and pushes a non-terminal left-hand side onto the stack here. Fine. So suppose right now, this is my stack configuration, which is that substring from the stack configuration and then replace it or pushes a non-terminal. Fine, guys? Now, one important thing, guys, here to answer at this point that the reduce operation must be executed only if that reduction could lead to a start symbol of the grammar. Now, just recall the first example that one reduction did not lead us to the start symbol of the grammar, and another reduction fortunately lead us to the start symbol of the grammar. So your parser must be very intelligent enough that he should deterministically decide either to reduce or to do something else. Fine. So what exactly I'm saying right now, let us try to capture in a generalized form. Suppose there is one reduction of this form and there is one reduction. I mean, there are certain symbols. There is one reduction. These are the two possibilities. So the contents which are up to here, it is matching with the right hand side of the production. And there are certain contents which are up to here, which are matching with another right hand side of the production. And now you need to decide that either I should do this reduction or this reduction. And this is where this is exactly the implementation issue that parser needs to handle on its own, and that too deterministically. Because one would possibly take him to the start symbol and the another may not be, right? So multiple interpretations not acceptable. Now, before looking at some of the things here, let me highlight some of the important properties which we have missed in the top-down parser. I mean, missed means that exactly is not the cup of the tea for the top-down parsing here. A very important property, guys, bottom-up parser. Bottom-up parser says, oh, come on, the form of the grammar doesn't make more sense to me. I mean, you can give me some irrelevant form of the grammar that I can easily handle the left recursive grammars. I can easily handle. I mean, no issue with me. I do not need to remove the left recursion from the grammar, and then accordingly, I'll proceed. Fine, guys? Making sense? So here, what exactly is saying? Let me give you an example. We are all familiar with the left recursion part, right? So suppose this is the form of the grammar. So parser says, I can handle this. Bottom-up parser says. You need not to reduce, give me some another form of the grammar, which we have exactly did in the top-down parsing here. And another property, guys, natural expression of the programming language syntax here. Can anyone highlight this point? What exactly, this justifies? So bottom-up parser says that I can handle even any natural language grammar also. Can anyone explain this? What exactly this context is? Come on, no one? So it says that bottom-up parser says, oh, come on, give me some meaningful grammars, which exactly by looking at those grammars, I can really estimate what exactly this grammar is doing. Either it is doing addition of identifiers or multiplication or modulus. Just look at this form of the grammar, which is left recursive, but still it is very, intelligible to understand by human itself. But if and parser says, bottom-up parser says that I can easily handle this grammar. But if I introduce some new form of the grammar, a different form of the grammar corresponding to this, so I'll probably will replace it with something like this. So this is my beta, and I'll say E dash, and E dash is nothing plus T, and again E dash and epsilon. So on the other hand, if I have this grammar or this grammar is always giving me some sense of identifying the nature of the grammar because it is written in a natural way. E plus T and this. So this is just adding the expressions and the terminals or whatnot. But by looking at this form of the grammar, one cannot exactly estimate quickly that what exactly this grammar is all about. So bottom-up parser says that it is feasible for me to capture the natural essence of the language, and same I'll articulate it to the bottom-up parser as well. Fine, guys, these are the two important properties that bottom-up parsers can easily handle. Now, since we have understood what exactly is the shift and reduce, let us take the grammar and let us take this input and we'll understand what exactly is the issue one more time with respect to the shift and reduce. So this is the grammar you can see, I mean, simply of identifiers. So expression is expression plus expression, expression times expression and identifier. And which you can see is completely left recursive and it has maintained the natural level of understanding, right? One can simply denote, oh, come on, I can understand this rule without any ambiguity. Fine. So what we are going to do, we are going to parse this input using this grammar, using certain set of shift and reduce operation, and then we'll understand what exactly is the issue now. So this was the grammar, and this is the input which I am supposed to parse here. And initially, my dot is somewhere here. Fine, guys? Because I have not yet started the parsing, and this is the rest of the input I am supposed to parse. So first configuration of the parsing is this. As I said, initially my stack configuration is completely null because there is no symbol on the left of dot here. And assuming that dollar is default there, which indicates the bottom of the stack. And this is my input configuration and my lookahead pointer is pointing to the ID here. So the first operation by default, I'm doing, let me do the shift, right? Because I do not have anything which matches with the right-hand side of the production here. So I did the shift. So, bring this guy to the left of the dot and bring, shift dot to one place extra here. So star ID plus ID is my rest of the configuration of the input, which I'm supposed to parse. And my stack configuration is ID. So now manually, I decide that there is a right-hand side which completely matches the substring on the left hand of the dot. So let me reduce it. As I said, reduce by E derives ID here. So I just pop this symbol ID and I push the left-hand side, that is E here. Fine. So my stack configuration is E dot star ID plus ID. And again, I'm doing the shift operation. So E star, so this is the stack configuration now, dot ID plus ID here. And again, I'm doing shift. So E star ID dot plus ID here. So again, it says there is one substring ID, which is again matching with that right-hand side of the production. So let me reduce with the same production, that is E is deriving ID. So my stack configuration will become E star E here. I did not perform the shift here. And next time, now my complete string on the stack here is matching with one of the right-hand side of the production, that is E times E. So I perform a reduction with this. Fine. So my stack configuration become E because I pop these three symbols and replaces and pushes the left-hand side, that is E here. So E dot plus ID. So again, I am doing the shift. And after that, again, this is my configuration now, E plus ID dot. Now, what does it mean? That means I do not have anything to parse. So, but my stack configuration is E plus ID here. So that's why I'm exactly doing the reduction with E derives ID here. Fine. So again, my stack configuration gets changed. That is from E plus ID to E plus E. And finally, I am reducing with this, that is E here. And you can see where I am assuming that E is my start symbol of the grammar here. So this indicates that this string is valid here. Fine, guys, up to this point. So this is how we are going to parse. Now there is another interpretation, because it is we have multiple interpretations, and that is in front of you. You can see up to this point, which I have completely unbold. I mean, this is my stack configuration, E star E dot plus ID, which is similar to this one. Now here, in this case, I perform a reduction, and here I am not performing a reduction because I have a possibility to reduce and I have a possibility to shift as well. So instead of reduction, I perform a shift operation. That means I bring this plus here. So my stack configuration becoming E star E plus dot ID here. And again, I am doing a shift operation, that is E star E plus ID dot here. And now I do not have anything to parse. So my continuous operation has to be reduced. So first I did E derives ED. So my stack configuration is becoming like this. And again, I am doing E derives E plus E because these are the contents of my stack. I mean, starting from the top. So E star E. And finally, I do have this. So I did this. And it is also taking me to the start symbol of the grammar here. But the parser doesn't know that either to shift or reduce, because one is valid and the another interpretation is invalid. So which one is valid and which one is invalid, students? Come on.
First one is valid.
First one is valid considering that the multiplication operation is resolving first. So I'll consider this interpretation as the valid one. Here, I mean, this is doing first addition and then multiplication. So obviously, I did not consider this. And again, here the TOC does not, I mean, can interfere that both are giving me the accurate representation. What exactly is the picture? So it doesn't matter to me because I do not want to create different representations, and I have to create unambiguous representation, whose meaning is semantically correct, right? So this is the thing one needs to understand: when to reduce, when to shift, or when to reduce. And one more important thing: when I have multiple possibilities to reduce, so which production I should use, right? Now, with this thing, we need to understand one more property here, which is very important, guys, with respect to the bottom-up parser here. And that says handle. Now, what exactly is a handle here? So handle is something which we are continuously discussing from the last few minutes with respect to the reduction here. And the bottom-up parsers are nothing but to just detect the handles in an appropriate way. If your bottom-up parsers are detecting the handles in an appropriate way, that means you have done the parsing appropriately. Now, what exactly is a handle? Let us dive into its formal definition. So it says, I am any string, or I would say a substring, that matches the right-hand side of any production and whose replacement gives a step in the reverse of the rightmost derivation. Now, if you recall, this is the thing which we are exactly discussing from the last couple of minutes with respect to the reduction here. Fine. Now, if we go back to the first example, so one reduction is not giving the reverse, I mean, sentential form which was in the reverse of the rightmost derivation, remember? And another reduction was giving a replacement which was there in the reverse of the rightmost derivation. Are you able to visualize? Should I go back then? So just recall the first problem. I mean, this one. So if I did the reduction with this, I mean, with this, so this is not giving me next time that sentential form, or even this one, which was not a part of this rightmost derivation, any sentence. However, the previous, the later on reductions are giving me the accurate replacement in the reverse of the rightmost derivation, and that's where the handle comes. So handle says that the handle says here that this is an accurate handle, which the first reduction is an accurate handle, but this one, although it is matching with the right hand side of this production, but this is not a handle. Why this is not a handle? Because this on performing this reduction, this is not giving me the sentential form which exactly should match with the rightmost derivation in reverse. So I'll not call this handle. Instead, I'll call this guy as a handle here, ABC. Similarly, I'll call this guy as a handle, D as a handle. I mean this one. And similarly, I call, so all these are handles, right? I mean, similarly up to this, and this here. So bottom-up parsing is all about the bottom line, that detection of the handles appropriately. deterministically. So remember here, I mean, if I go back, I mean, come to the current point here, that the bottom-up parsers are not just about the reductions with the right-hand side production. It's bottom-up parser says that whenever you are supposed to reduce, always reduce by handle, not any random right-hand side. So even if it is completely matching with any substring of your configuration. So always reduce the handles. So right now, we don't know how to detect the appropriate handles, but as of now, we know that our job is to detect only the handles, not any right-hand side. This I should not do. Fine, guys. Any query up to this point? Fine. So this thing one should remember. And now what we are understanding, we are trying to understand it manually, and the bottom-up parser has to capture this, has to automate this process. So it's not that every time bottom-up parser will do the reduction and it will match with the derivation process. Not at all, because that is going to be somehow inefficient. So we have to look at the bottom-up parsers that will automate this process. Right? So this is handle pruning, I mean the handle eliminate. So if beta is a handle, I mean this is the thing, then replace by beta by A, I mean a rightmost derivation in reverse can obtain by handle pruning. So in reverse, I mean that should give the sentential form in the rightmost derivation in reverse. So we have to detect the handles and we have to do this process, that is replacement. Fine, students? So let's come back one more time to the shift reduce parsers, because now we understood what are the things here. So it is the process of detecting the handles only, guys. I mean, if someone will ask you what is a shift reduce parser, oh, come on, don't say now it gives the rightmost derivation in reverse. Say more appropriately, it is a process of only detecting the handles, and that will obviously covers the rightmost derivation in reverse. Detection of handles and also reduce them. Reduce them means pop that thing from the top of the stack and below it also if present, and just replace it with the leftmost non-terminal. So different bottom-up parsers, which we are going to study in the upcoming sessions, differ in the way that how they are going to detect the handles, because they have to detect the handles in a deterministic way, and that's where the difference comes. Fine, students? Now we have certain conflicts, and these conflicts which we have already seen, but we are just formalizing. Shift reduce conflict in while parsing, either to shift or reduce. Recall the previous example. I mean, in one step I have reduced, and in another process I have shift here. So I don't know whether to shift or reduce, because both are taking me to the start symbol of the grammar. Right? So shift reduce conflict is which action I should take, which either I should take shift or reduce if both shift are seems to be valid here. Fine, guys. Similarly, we have reduce conflict, which says that which rule I should use for production if reduction is possible by more than one rule. Similarly, I gave you one example. Suppose, I mean, one right-hand side is matching with up to this much length here, and another right-hand side is matching up to this length. So either I should use with this first right-hand side, or let me call this, let me write here, this R2. Either I should use the reduction for R1 or R2 here. So this is a conflict, because parser should know what is the deterministic action I should take here. Fine, guys. Any question up to this point? Please let me know. Fine. Let us try to understand quickly with the help of certain examples now. So let's first take shift reduce conflict. Again, the same grammar and the same input, guys. And you know, let's suppose the stack configuration at somewhere, I mean, intermediary representations is E plus E, and my input configuration is star IT. So in the first place, I am reducing it, right? And in the another place, the same stack configuration, the same input configuration, and I am doing the shift. And you can just see both are taking me to the start symbol of the grammar. So parser should know, how to handle this conflict. Either I should reduce or to shift. The same thing which we have discussed earlier with the same example. Clear, guys? So correspondingly, I have different sentential forms of the grammar and I have different sentential. And what is the sentential form of the grammar? The configuration of the stack and the configuration of the input. If I'll amalgamate both these things, so that is nothing but one of the sentential form of the grammar. Fine, guys? Shift, reduce, conflict. Similarly, we have the reduce conflict. Let's say this is one grammar of this much the addition of the registers and the constants. And these are the two scenarios here. So initially my stack configuration is null and this is the input I am supposed to parse. And here also my initial stack configuration is null and this is the input I am supposed to parse. So first here I am doing the shift. So I did the shift here. Here also I am doing the reduction by this, and here also I am doing the reduction by this. So this will become R here. Sorry, this will become R here, and this is also becoming R. Shift, no conflict still now. So R plus is a stack configuration. And again, here I am doing the shift, so that is becoming R plus C, and here also this is becoming R plus C. Now here, you can see I am doing the reduction with this, just this part, and here I am doing the reduction for this. Remember, so this is my substring 1 and this is my substring 2, and both are taking me to the start symbol of the grammar, guys. And one is correct and one is another is incorrect, and I should not have multiple interpretations. So this is the reduce conflict. One example. Because I am doing the reductions in an ambiguous way here. Fine, students? So one last point, issues, whether to shift or reduce. If this thing can answer your parser, that means he has done half of the job. And another thing which is very important, that if I have multiple productions, so which production I should use for the production? Oh, sorry, for the reduction. Fine, students. So this is all about the issues with respect to the bottom-up parser. And that subsequently are going to be handled by the bottom-up parsers, one by one. And as I said, the difference between the different bottom-up parser is that the detection of handles in a different way. Fine, guys. So I'm stopping here, guys. Now, if you have any, please let me know. Any questions, guys? Any queries up to this point? So guys, I just want to announce this formally as well. I have already put a notice on the Nalanda that your quiz 1 is scheduled on Monday, that is upcoming Monday on 22nd of February. And that is going to be conducted in the regular lecture hours. Number 1. Number 2, whatever we'll cover up to the Friday's lecture, that is going to be the part of your quiz 1 here. Fine.
So format of the quiz?
So format of the quiz would be the short answer type questions. It could be, so you need to answer, you need to write the answers on the platform itself. This is the format. It could be fill in the blanks. It could be any missing statements. It could be anything. Fine.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, I'm stopping here. Again, I'm asking if you have any question with respect to whatever we have discussed today, please let me know.